The city never dims. At 3 in the morning, the streets hum with the same energy as 3 in the afternoon. Coffee shops are packed. Offices glow with life. Children play in parks under streetlights that might as well be decorative because nobody needs the darkness to rest. A woman finishes a 12-hour shift at the hospital and heads straight to her pottery class. A man closes his laptop after writing for 16 hours straight and meets friends for dinner. His mind still sharp, still hungry for conversation. There are no yawns, no heavy eyelids, no desperate reach for caffeine just to make it through the day. In this world, humans never evolved the need to sleep. 1/3 of life, the part we spend unconscious, vulnerable, dreaming, simply doesn't exist. And everything, absolutely everything, is different. Welcome to a world where sleep is nothing more than a curious biological footnote, a quirk that other mammals still suffer through while humanity thrives in perpetual wakefulness. Let's start with the obvious question. Why do we sleep in the first place? In our world, sleep is non-negotiable. Go without it for 24 hours and your cognitive function plummets. Your reaction time slows. Your memory falters. Push it to 48 hours and you start hallucinating. Your immune system crashes. Your body begins to literally fall apart at the cellular level. Sleep deprivation has been used as torture because it works, because sleep is so fundamentally necessary that removing it breaks the human machine. But why? What's happening during those 8 hours of unconsciousness that's so crucial we evolved to spend 1/3 of our lives doing it? The truth is, sleep serves multiple functions, and scientists are still unraveling them all. During sleep, your brain consolidates memories, moving information from short-term storage to long-term archives. It clears out metabolic waste that builds up during waking hours, literally taking out the trash through a system called the glymphatic system, which operates primarily while you're unconscious. Sleep regulates hormones, repairs tissue, strengthens the immune system, and processes emotions. It's maintenance mode for the entire body. Without it, we deteriorate rapidly. Fatal familial insomnia, a rare genetic disorder that prevents sleep, kills its victims within months. Their brains simply can't survive without those nightly repair cycles. But here's the thing. Not all animals sleep the same way. Dolphins and whales sleep with half their brain at a time, keeping the other half awake to breathe and watch for predators. Some birds can sleep while flying. Certain fish barely sleep at all. Giraffes sleep for less than 2 hours a day in short bursts. The need for sleep and the amount required varies wildly across the animal kingdom. So it's not entirely crazy to imagine that evolution could have taken a different path for humans. What if our ancestors developed a way to perform all those crucial maintenance functions while awake? What if the human brain evolved a system to consolidate memories in real time, to clear metabolic waste continuously, to regulate and repair without ever needing to shut down? In this alternate world, that's exactly what happened. Maybe it was an environmental pressure. Early humans living in an area where predation was so intense that sleeping meant death, and only those who could stay vigilant 24 hours a day survived to reproduce. Maybe it was a random mutation that spread because it offered such an overwhelming advantage. The how doesn't matter as much as the consequences, because once you remove the need for sleep, you don't just add 8 hours to the day. You fundamentally restructure what it means to be human. Let's talk about productivity first, because that's where most people's minds immediately go. In our world, we spend roughly a third of our lives asleep. If you live to be 75, that's 25 years of unconsciousness. Gone. In the sleepless world, those 25 years are yours to use. But here's the critical question. Would people actually use that time productively? Or would they just find new ways to waste it? In our world, we already have more leisure time than any generation in human history, and we spend much of it scrolling through social media, binge-watching shows, numbing ourselves with distractions. Give people 8 extra hours a day, and there's no guarantee they'd suddenly become Renaissance polymaths. But let's be optimistic. Let's assume that at least some portion of humanity would use those extra hours for growth, learning, creation. Imagine what a scientist could accomplish with 16-hour workdays, sustained indefinitely without fatigue. Research that currently takes a decade could be completed in 5 years. An artist could produce twice as much work in their lifetime. A writer could complete not just one magnum opus, but 3 or 4. The sheer accumulation of human knowledge and culture would accelerate at a dizzying pace. We already live in an age of information overload. Multiply that by a factor of 2 or 3, and you get a civilization moving at hyperspeed, innovating, creating, building faster than any society in our sleepy world could ever dream of. But productivity isn't everything, and this is where things get interesting. Because sleep doesn't just serve biological functions, it serves psychological and social functions too. In our world, sleep is a natural break in consciousness. It's a reset button. You go to bed angry, you wake up calmer. You go to bed confused, you wake up with clarity. Sleep gives us distance from our problems, perspective on our emotions, dreams, as bizarre and nonsensical as they often are, help us process experiences, work through anxieties, explore possibilities our waking minds won't entertain. Take that away, and what happens to the human psyche? In a sleepless world, there's no escape from consciousness, no nightly reprieve from your thoughts. If you're depressed for 24 hours straight, day after day, with no unconscious break to dull the pain. If you're anxious, that anxiety follows you through every waking moment, which is every moment without interruption. In our world, people often say, "Let me sleep on it," when faced with a difficult decision, and there's wisdom in that. Sleep provides cognitive distance, but without it, you're trapped in an eternal present, forever awake, forever aware, forever inside your own head. The psychological implications are staggering. Mental health in this world would look completely different. Therapy would need to adapt. Meditation and mindfulness practices might become even more essential, serving the function that sleep once did, providing a mental reset, a way to step back from the relentless flow of consciousness. Or maybe humans in this world would evolve different psychological structures entirely. Maybe without the nightly disruption of sleep, consciousness itself would be more continuous, more integrated. Your sense of self wouldn't be broken up into discrete days, separated by unconsciousness. You'd experience life as one long, unbroken stream of awareness from birth to death. That could be beautiful. It could also be maddening. Let's shift gears and talk about society, because a sleepless world would require completely different infrastructure. In our world, civilization is built around the sleep cycle. Cities have rhythms: rush hour in the morning, lunch breaks at noon, rush hour in the evening. Then everything quiets down at night. Businesses have operating hours. Restaurants close. Offices go dark. Even in major cities that claim to never sleep, there are still quiet hours, lulls in activity. But in a truly sleepless world, that rhythm disappears. There's no reason for businesses to close, no reason for rush hour to happen at specific times. People would spread their activities across the entire 24-hour period, working and shopping and socializing whenever they felt like it. This could actually solve a lot of problems. Traffic congestion would ease because people wouldn't all need to commute at the same time. Restaurants and stores could operate continuously, serving customers at 3 a.m. just as easily as 3 p.m. Infrastructure like roads and public transportation would be utilized more efficiently without the massive peaks and valleys in demand that currently exist. Economically, a sleepless society could be incredibly productive. Factories could run non-stop without shifts. Creative collaboration could happen at any hour. Global business would be seamless. No more, "Sorry, it's 3 a.m. here. Can we talk tomorrow?" Everything would be always on, always available. But there's a dark side to this too. In our world, nighttime serves as a natural limit on work culture. Your boss can demand you work late, but eventually, everyone has to sleep. It's a biological boundary that even the most exploitative employer can't fully cross. Remove that boundary, and what stops companies from expecting people to work 16, 18, 20 hours a day? If you don't need sleep, why should you get time off? In the sleepless world, labor rights would have to be completely rethought. Without the natural break that sleep provides, society would need to artificially impose limits on work hours because the human body might not need rest, but the human mind still would, just in different ways. And what about relationships? In our world, going to bed together is one of the most intimate things couples do. You share vulnerability in sleep. You snore, you drool, you look ridiculous, and your partner sees you anyway and loves you for it. Morning rituals, bedtime routines, the gentle rhythm of waking up next to someone, all of that shapes how we bond with each other. In a sleepless world, those rituals don't exist. Couples would need to find new ways to create intimacy, new shared vulnerabilities to replace the ones that sleep provided. Maybe the equivalent would be meditation sessions together, or simply designated quiet time where both people agree to be present and do nothing but exist in each other's company. Families would change too. Right now, parents spend years of their lives sleep-deprived, woken up by crying infants, stumbling through the exhaustion of early parenthood. In the sleepless world, if babies also don't sleep, and they probably wouldn't, if it's a universal human trait, parenting would be completely different. No more desperate attempts to get the baby to sleep through the night because the baby is awake all the time anyway. That sounds exhausting in its own way, but at least parents wouldn't be dealing with it while running on 4 hours of broken sleep themselves. Childhood development would follow different patterns. Learning wouldn't be interrupted by naps and bedtime. Children could absorb information continuously, their brains always active, always processing. They might develop faster, reach cognitive milestones earlier, or they might burn out, overwhelmed by the sheer unrelenting nature of consciousness. Now let's go deeper into the biology, because if humans didn't need sleep, our brains would have to work fundamentally differently. In our world, the sleeping brain is incredibly active. It cycles through different stages: light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep. each serving distinct purposes. During deep sleep, the glymphatic system flushes out beta amyloid and other toxic proteins that accumulate during waking hours. The buildup of these proteins is linked to Alzheimer's and other neurodegenerative diseases. During REM sleep, the brain consolidates memories and processes emotions, firing off neural patterns that strengthen connections and integrate new information with existing knowledge. In the sleepless world, all of these functions would need to happen while awake. The brain would need a constantly active waste clearance system, perhaps with enhanced blood flow, or a completely different mechanism for removing toxins. Memory consolidation would need to occur in real time, possibly through more efficient neuroplasticity or through brief microstates where the brain temporarily shifts into a processing mode without losing consciousness. Emotions would need to be regulated on the fly, without the reset that REM sleep provides. This would require a fundamentally different brain architecture, maybe more developed prefrontal cortex for constant emotional regulation, maybe enhanced neurotransmitter systems that don't rely on sleep-wake cycles. And here's something wild to consider. Dreams. In our world, everyone dreams, even if they don't remember their dreams upon waking. Dreams are bizarre, surreal, often emotionally intense experiences that happen during REM sleep. They've inspired art, literature, religion, psychoanalysis. They're a fundamental part of human experience. But in a sleepless world, dreams wouldn't exist, at least not in the way we know them. There would be no unconscious theater where your mind plays out strange narratives and impossible scenarios. Would sleepless humans miss something they never had? Would they develop an equivalent, perhaps vivid daydream so intense they serve the same psychological function? Or would their inner lives be entirely different, more grounded in reality, less touched by the surreal? The cultural impact of no dreams would be enormous. Think about how much of our mythology, our art, our understanding of the unconscious mind comes from dreams. Freud's entire psychoanalytic theory was built on dream interpretation. Surrealist art was inspired by dream logic. Indigenous cultures around the world have rich traditions of dream interpretation and dream sharing. In the sleepless world, none of that exists. Their art would be different. Their spirituality would be different. They might not even have a concept of the unconscious mind in the way we do, because without sleep and dreams, consciousness is all there is. Let's talk about aging. In our world, sleep quality deteriorates as we get older. Elderly people often struggle with insomnia, waking frequently during the night, getting less deep sleep and less REM sleep. This contributes to cognitive decline, memory problems, and various health issues. But in the sleepless world, aging would follow a different trajectory. Without the cumulative damage of poor sleep over decades, would people remain sharper longer? Would Alzheimer's and dementia be less common, or would they manifest in entirely different ways? The brain would still age, cells would still die, telomeres would still shorten, but without sleep deprivation as a contributing factor, perhaps the elderly would maintain cognitive function far longer than in our world. On the flip side, without the daily repair cycle that sleep provides, other forms of cellular damage might accumulate faster. In our world, sleep is when growth hormone is released, when tissue repairs itself, when the immune system ramps up its defenses. If all of that has to happen while awake and active, the body might wear down in different ways. Maybe sleepless humans would have shorter lifespans, burning brighter but faster. Or maybe they'd live longer, having eliminated one of the major vulnerabilities that make us weak. The 8 hours every night when we're unconscious and defenseless. Speaking of defenselessness, let's consider evolution and survival. Sleep is risky. When you're asleep, you can't run from predators. You can't defend yourself. You can't gather food or protect your offspring. The fact that sleep evolved at all, despite these enormous risks, tells us how crucial it must be. But in the sleepless world, that vulnerability never existed. Early humans would have been apex survivors, always alert, always ready to respond to threats. They would have dominated their environment even more decisively than our ancestors did. Predators wouldn't stand a chance against a species that never lets its guard down. But this raises an interesting question. If humans never needed sleep, would they be more aggressive, more territorial, more violent? In our world, sleep deprivation is linked to increased aggression and decreased impulse control. But that's because we're going without something we need. In the sleepless world, people aren't sleep deprived. They simply don't require it. Their baseline neurochemistry would be different. They might be calmer, more rational, less prone to the emotional volatility that comes from exhaustion. Or they might be more intense, more driven, lacking the natural cooling off period that sleep provides. Human nature in this world is genuinely unpredictable. Now imagine the military implications. Soldiers who never need to sleep are the ultimate fighting force. No watch rotations, no vulnerability during rest periods. Armies could march continuously, fight continuously, strategize continuously. Warfare in the sleepless world would be even more brutal than in ours, because there's no natural break in combat operations. Sieges would last longer. Battles would be wars of attrition measured in pure willpower rather than who can outlast the other without collapsing from exhaustion. The entire history of human conflict would be rewritten. But let's not dwell in darkness. Let's talk about beauty. In our world, some of the most peaceful, reflective moments happen in the quiet of night. The world sleeps, and you're awake, alone with your thoughts. There's something magical about 3 a.m. when the streets are empty and the air is still, and you feel like the only person alive. In the sleepless world, that magic disappears. 3 a.m. is just another hour, no different from 3 p.m. The streets are full. The noise never stops. There's no sanctuary of silence, no pocket of solitude carved out by the fact that everyone else is unconscious. This could be a profound loss. Humans need solitude. We need quiet. We need time to think, to reflect, to just be without demands or distractions. In our world, nighttime provides that, even if you're not sleeping. You can stay up late and enjoy the stillness while others sleep. But in the sleepless world, you'd have to actively create that solitude, carve it out of a society that never stops moving. Maybe that would make people more intentional about seeking quiet. Maybe meditation retreats and silent spaces would become even more valued, essential refuges from the unrelenting activity of a civilization that never rests. Or maybe sleepless humans would be fine with it. Maybe they'd thrive in the constant activity, drawing energy from the perpetual buzz of human interaction. Maybe loneliness would be less common because there's always someone available to talk to, always somewhere open to go, always something happening. The psychological makeup of humans in this world might be fundamentally different from ours, more extroverted, more comfortable with constant stimulation, less needful of the introspective quiet that we associate with nighttime. Here's a thought experiment. What would literature look like in this world? So much of our greatest writing happens in solitude, often late at night when the writer is alone with their thoughts. Dostoevsky, Kafka, Hemingway, they wrote in the quiet hours, drawing from the well of introspection that nighttime provides. In the sleepless world, would writers still find that depth, or would their work be more frenetic, more influenced by the constant external stimulation? Would there even be a concept of the tortured artist struggling alone with their demons? Or would creative work be more collaborative, more social, constantly workshopped in real time because everyone is always available? Music would change too. Think about lullabies. They don't exist in the sleepless world. No Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. No Rockabye Baby. The entire genre of sleep-related music disappears. But maybe they'd have something else, something we can't even imagine. Music designed to induce meditative states, perhaps. Songs meant to be experienced during those intentional quiet moments that replace sleep. The cultural output of a sleepless civilization would be so alien to us that we might not even recognize it as human. Let's zoom back out to the cosmic scale for a moment. In our universe, circadian rhythms, the internal clocks that regulate sleep-wake cycles, are tied to the rotation of the Earth. Almost every living thing on this planet, from bacteria to blue whales, has some form of circadian rhythm synchronized to the 24-hour day-night cycle. It's one of the most fundamental patterns in biology, shaped by billions of years of evolution under a rotating planet. For humans to evolve without the need for sleep, they'd have to break free from this ancient pattern to become something genuinely new. And maybe that's the ultimate question this thought experiment asks. What does it mean to be human? Is sleep so fundamental to our humanity that removing it creates a different species entirely? Or is humanity defined by something deeper? Our capacity for love, for creativity, for meaning-making, qualities that would persist regardless of whether we sleep? The sleepless humans would still laugh, still cry, still tell stories, and build communities and search for purpose. They'd still be human in all the ways that matter. They'd just be human without one of the experiences that we consider universal. There's something both thrilling and unsettling about that. Thrilling, because it suggests that humanity is more adaptable, more resilient than we might think. We're not defined by our limitations, but by how we transcend them. Unsettling, because it makes you realize how much of your identity is shaped by biological constraints you never chose. You didn't decide to need sleep. You didn't choose to spend a third of your life unconscious. It just happened, and you built your entire existence around it. Take it away, and who are you? What becomes possible? What is lost? So here's where we land. In the world where humans never needed sleep, life would be longer. Not in years, necessarily, but in lived experience. You'd have more time to love, to learn, to create, to explore. You'd never lose a day to exhaustion. You'd never waste a moment unconscious. But you'd also never experience the sweet surrender of falling asleep after a long day. Never feel the comfort of morning light after darkness. Never dream. You'd live in an eternal, unbroken present, always awake, always aware, always on. And maybe that would be glorious. Or maybe it would be a prison of consciousness, a life without the rhythm and relief that sleep provides. The truth is, we'll never know. We're stuck in these sleeping bodies, bound by the biology that evolution handed us. But in imagining this alternate world, we've learned something valuable about our own. We've learned that sleep isn't a weakness or a waste of time. It's part of what makes us human. It's the pause between the notes that gives music its meaning. It's the darkness that makes the light more beautiful. And maybe, just maybe, we should stop treating it like an inconvenience and start honoring it for what it is: a gift, a refuge, a nightly death and resurrection that lets us wake up tomorrow as someone slightly new, slightly renewed, ready to face another day in this strange and temporary existence we call life.